The boy who caught the sky. The first time Leo saw a soccer ball fly through the air, it wasn't on a field. It was during recess in third grade, a bright yellow sphere arcing over the chain-link fence of the elementary school playground, kicked with wild abandon by a group of older boys practicing near the junior high field. Leo, small for his age even then, with limbs like new willow shoots and a quietness that made him blend into the background of classroom murals, stood frozen. The ball didn't come at him, it landed with a soft thump in the sandbox near his feet, spraying tiny grains like golden dust. He didn't touch it. He just stared, mesmerized by the way it had moved, not bouncing erratically like a basketball, but flying, purposeful and swift, a comet trailing possibility. Something inside him, a tiny dormant spark, flickered. That spark, however, took a winding, often bumpy path to become a flame. Leo's parents, hoping to nurture his interest in sports, signed him up for everything under the sun. They believed, as many hopeful parents do, that the right activity was simply waiting to be discovered, like a hidden seashell in the sand. First came table tennis. The gleaming green table in the community center basement felt like a vast, intimidating ocean. Leo's paddle, held in hands that seemed too small for its handle, felt alien. The tiny white ball, a hummingbird zipping back and forth, was impossible to track. Pock, pock, pock. It moved faster than his eyes could follow, faster than his hesitant swings. He'd lunge, miss, stumble, his thin frame unsteady on the smooth floor. Ping of the ball hitting the net became his personal soundtrack, a sound that echoed the quiet disappointment settling in his chest. He felt like a spectator in his own game, watching the ball dance just beyond his reach, a tiny, mocking planet in a universe he couldn't navigate. Next was American football. Pads were heavy, smelling of vinyl and sweat, like armor from a cartoon he didn't want to wear. On the muddy practice field, Leo, assigned to the offensive line, felt like a sapling in a forest of oaks. The bigger boys charged at him, their cleats tearing up the turf, and Leo would simply disappear. Not dramatically, but with a soft oof and a tumble, landing on his backside in the cool, squishy mud. It wasn't malice, it was physics. His slight build, his lack of the dense muscle others seemed to sprout overnight, made him a leaf in a gale. He'd scramble up, grass stains blooming on his knees like green flowers, mud caking his thin arms, the sting of humiliation warmer than the autumn sun. The roar of the crowd during a real game felt distant, muffled, as if he were watching through thick glass. Then volleyball. The high school gymnasium was a cathedral of echoing squeaks and sharp shouts. Leo stood on the court, the bright lights making him feel exposed. The ball, a vibrant blue orb, sailed over the net. He raised his arms, palms together, trying to form the platform his coach described. Smack. The impact wasn't painful, but it was shocking, a sudden, jarring vibration up his arms that made his teeth rattle. He'd flinch, his platform collapsing, the ball rocketing past him to hit the floor with a dull thud. Leo! Commit, the coach would yell, but committing meant bracing for that jolt, that feeling of being struck, and his body, wired for caution, refused. He watched the taller, stronger kids spike the ball with power that made the net shudder, feeling like a ghost haunting a game he wasn't built for. Tennis offered a different kind of isolation. crisp thwack of the ball on the racket face of his opponent, a girl named Maya who moved with effortless grace, was a sound of confidence Leo couldn't replicate. His own swings felt clumsy, the racket head lagging behind his intent. The yellow ball, fuzzy and deceptively light, would come at him and he'd misjudge its speed, his racket connecting only with air. Whoosh! The sound of failure. Maya's gentle corrections. Just watch the ball, Leo, meet it early, felt like instructions in a language he hadn't learned. He'd stand at the baseline, the vast green court stretching before him, feeling utterly alone, the silence between points heavy with his own inadequacy. The smooth, cool handle of the racket in his sweaty palm offered no comfort. Pickleball seemed promising, smaller court, slower ball, right? But the pop 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 of the plastic ball against the paddle was relentless. Leo found himself constantly a step behind, lunging awkwardly, his thin legs tangling. The net was low, but his timing was off. He'd either hit the ball into it with a soft plop or send it sailing long over the back fence. The social buzz of the community center courts, filled with chattering adults, only amplified his sense of being an outsider, a puzzle piece trying to fit into the wrong picture. The smell of freshly cut grass from the adjacent fields mocked him, reminding him of the soccer field he longed for but felt too weak to conquer. Finally, soccer itself. But not the position that had first captivated him. He started where many small players do, as a defender, then a midfielder. Running up and down the field felt endless. His lungs burned like they were filled with hot sand after just 10 minutes. When the ball came to him, teammates would shout, "Pass it, Leo! Pass it!" Their voices sounded urgent, almost panicked. He'd try to control it, but his touch was hesitant, the ball seeming to have a mind of its own, rolling just out of reach or stopping dead under his foot. Opponents would breeze past him, their stronger legs easily shielding the ball, their bodies bumping him aside with a casualness that sent him stumbling, grass stains quickly becoming his uniform. He'd watch the strikers, powerful and swift, drive towards the goal and feel a pang of longing mixed with resignation. He wasn't built for this dance. One sweltering afternoon during a chaotic scrimmage, the regular goalkeeper Ben twisted his ankle going for a save. Groaning, he limped off the field. The coach, Mr. Davies, a man with kind eyes but a perpetually stressed expression, scanned the panting players. "Leo, you're in goal. Just stand there and try not to let it go in the corners." Leo's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. Goal? Me? The goalposts, usually distant markers he ran past, suddenly loomed enormous, gaping like the entrance to a cave. Penalty area felt vast and exposed. He shuffled into position, the rough texture of the grass scratching his thin shins through his shorts. The first shot came almost immediately, a weak, rolling effort from 20 yards out. Leo, frozen by the suddenness of it, watched it trickle slowly, agonizingly between his legs and into the net. Collective groan rose from his teammates. Heat flooded his face. He felt smaller than ever, a stick figure in an oversized jersey. But then, something unexpected happened. As the ball nestled in the back of the net, Leo didn't feel the usual wave of crushing shame. Instead, a different sensation surged through him, a fierce, protective instinct. That's my net. The thought was startling, primal. He retrieved the ball, the smooth synthetic leather cool in his hands, and placed it back on the center spot. He took a deep breath, the scent of cut grass and hot earth filling his lungs. He planted his feet, shoulder width apart, just how he'd seen the pros do it on TV. He focused, not on the fear, but on the ball, on the space between the posts. The next shot came a bit harder, a bit lower. Leo didn't flinch. He shuffled slightly, got his body behind it, and pushed it away with both hands. It wasn't elegant, but it stayed out. A spark, the same one from the sandbox, flared brightly. I stopped it. The roar of the wind in his ears wasn't just fear anymore, it was the sound of possibility rushing in. In that dusty, sun-baked moment, surrounded by groaning teammates and the smell of sweat and grass, Leo knew. This wasn't just a position, it was his calling. He wanted to be the last line, the shield, the one who caught the sky. The dream settled in his chest, warm and heavy as a stone, but a stone he suddenly felt strong enough to carry. He wanted to be the goalkeeper. The dream, however, quickly met the reality of Leo's body. Standing between the posts for the first time in an actual practice, wearing borrowed, oversized gloves that felt like catcher's mitts, Leo felt utterly vulnerable. The odds weren't just against him, they felt like a wall he couldn't see over. His slight frame, which made him quick on his feet for running, felt like a liability in the box. When taller, stronger players like Marco, the team's star striker, came charging down the wing, Leo braced himself. Marco, grinning, would simply lower his shoulder and bump Leo aside as he drove towards goal. It wasn't malicious, Marco was just playing hard. But for Leo, it was like being nudged by a friendly elephant. He'd stumble, arms windmilling, landing hard on his side, the breath knocked out of him in a soft whoosh. The grass smelled sharp and earthy against his cheek. Sorry, Leo, Marco would call, already focused on the next play, but Leo felt the sting of helplessness more than the impact. He looked at his thin arms, pale against the green grass, and wondered how anyone so easily moved could ever command the space in front of the goal. Then came the shots. Not the gentle rolls of the scrimmage, but real, powerful kicks from teammates practicing finishing. The ball, a hard, unforgiving sphere, would rocket towards him. Thwack! The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet field. Leo's instinct was pure animal fear. He'd flinch violently, squeezing his eyes shut, throwing his arms up not to catch but to protect his face. The ball would often hit his forearms or chest, knocking him back a step, the impact jarring his whole frame. Even through his shin guards, the hard plastic shells strapped over his socks, he felt the sting when a shot clipped his leg. It wasn't just the physical pain, though that was sharp and surprising, it was the violation of the protection. The shin guards were supposed to make him invincible down there, but the force still traveled up his bones, a cold shockwave that made him gasp. He'd look down, half expecting to see blood, but only saw the faint red mark blooming on his pale skin beneath the strap. The smell of the plastic shin guards, slightly warm from the sun, mixed with the scent of his own nervous sweat. His first attempts at basic goalkeeper drills were exercises in frustration. Coach Davies had him practice catching high balls. "Jump, Leo! Get your hands up!" Leo would bend his knees, summoning all his will, and push off. But his leap was pitiful. He barely cleared a few inches off the ground, his fingertips brushing nothing but empty air as the ball sailed over his head and landed softly behind him. He felt like a frog trying to catch a dragonfly, utterly outmatched by gravity. The disappointment was a heavy stone in his stomach. Kicking the ball away after a save? Another nightmare. Goalkeepers need to launch the ball long and accurate to start counterattacks. Leo would place the ball carefully, take a short run up, and swing his leg. Thud. Contact was weak, the ball barely rising off the ground, rolling lazily 10 yards away before being intercepted by an eager midfielder. Lacked power, lacked direction. Felt like kicking a heavy stone uphill. The sound was a dull, unsatisfying thump, not the crisp thwack of a powerful clearance. Throwing was equally disheartening. He'd grip the ball, wind up his arm, and hurl it forward with all his might. It would arc weakly, maybe 20 yards, before dropping like a wounded bird. Teammates would have to chase it down, their expressions a mix of patience and impatience. "Come on, Leo, put some oomph in it," someone would shout. He felt his face burn. He was putting oomph in it, it just wasn't enough oomph. His thin arms felt like twigs trying to launch a cannonball. Diving, the signature move of the goalkeeper, the dramatic full-stretch save, was pure terror. Coach Davies rolled a slow ball to his side. "Dive, Leo. Get across the goal." Leo knew the theory: drop, push off, extend, catch. But the thought of hurling his body horizontally towards the hard ground, trusting his hands to catch the ball and his body to absorb the impact, made his blood run cold. He'd hesitate, then make a half-hearted lunge, often tripping over his own feet and landing awkwardly on his knees, the ball rolling past him. The first time he actually committed to a dive for a slightly faster ball, he pushed off, stretched, and completely missed. He hit the ground hard, shoulder first, the wind knocked out of him, the ball bouncing innocently away. The rough grass scraped his cheek, and the taste of dirt filled his mouth. He lay there for a second, stunned, the world spinning slightly, the sound of the ball rolling fading into the background hum of the field. Felt less like a save and more like a surrender to the earth. Running across the goal to cover angles? His speed, decent for a midfielder covering ground, felt sluggish when he needed explosive lateral movement. A shot aimed just outside the near post would see him scrambling, legs pumping, but arriving a fraction of a second too late, watching helplessly as the ball nestled in the corner. He'd stand frozen for a heartbeat after the goal, the sound of the net rippling like a taunt, his lungs burning, his legs feeling like lead weights. The vastness of the goalmouth, which had felt protective at first, now felt like an arena where his limitations were on full display. The worst was the arm wrestling. During breaks, the team would gather around a bench. Leo, hoping to build camaraderie, would join in. Big Mike, the burly center back, would pin him in seconds, Leo's thin arm collapsing like a wet noodle. Then came Chloe, one of the strongest girls on the team, known for her powerful shot. Leo braced himself, knuckles white on the bench. 1-2 and his arm was down. Chloe grinned, not unkindly. Sorry, Leo. You gotta work those guns. Even shy, quiet Maya, who barely looked strong enough to carry her backpack, could gently but firmly push Leo's arm down. Each loss was a tiny hammer blow to his confidence. How can I stop a soccer ball kicked by guys who can pin me effortlessly? The feeling of his own weakness, so starkly contrasted against his teammates, settled deep in his bones, colder than the morning dew on the grass.